Money comes in all ways when you are aligned with your gifts and talents, serving the way you were made. This is scientifically proven. And when you test the theory, money just flows and it makes us feel calm, peaceful, and helps us work towards that financial freedom. These are the conversations we are having in The Smell of Money, a community on School where we think about how we want our relationship with money to be. Plus, there's cash flow quickies to give you immediate wins. Members are saving $500 to $2,000 just by being aware of their money. Come join us. The link is in the description.
If you're tired of feeling shame about past financial decisions, worried you'll never achieve financial stability, and ready for a clear plan to take control of your money and experience true financial freedom, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Lisa, wealth activator, independent insurance broker, and your guide to rewriting your money story. I learned the secret to creating financial freedom and stability after divorce, and I'm ready to share it with you. If you're ready for steady, stress-free income, clarity with your money, and the confidence to spend without guilt, grab your favorite essential oil, take a deep breath, and let's sniff our way through the smell of money. So today, we have an amazing guest, a relationship coach who is a work-life researcher, negotiations professor, and a friend who relishes helping others step into their power to live their best and healthiest life. And y'all know I love having health and relationship coaches on the show because it parallels our wealth. If you got a crappy relationship, it's going to affect your finances. If your health isn't doing well, it's going to affect your finances. So thank you so much, Meredith Thompson, for hanging out with us today. Tell us where you were before, like what helped you step into it. It sounds like you have a dual thing. You're a professor, you're a relationship coach. So what brought you on this path?
I feel like the path and where I am right now in career and life is kind of the fruition of my various careers. So I was in tech with Deloitte early in my career. I've been in academia the last about 20 years as a work-life researcher. And I went through a divorce about 10 years ago. Came out of a relationship where even though I made most of the money, I didn't actually have control of the money. And so it came to kind of me taking my tech skills and my research skills to build systems and tools for people to get clarity in their life and especially in their relationships, because without clarity, we stand in indecision and we know indecision can be super expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And my chest kind of tightened when you said you didn't have any control of that money. Tell us more about that.
Yes. The I guess mantra of my first spouse was Meredith makes the money and he manages it. I probably don't have to tell you that it didn't end so well. And so when I got divorced, I was making money and I'm a business school professor. And so like the identity clash there was not small. And I started, I had control of my money for the first time in my life at 43. But then I just didn't have the self-trust or the confidence or the background to, I could put together a budget, but then that part of me that lacked that self-trust and experience and confidence would say, well, I don't know. Can you make this budget? Can you make it work? It was like, all those little negative self-talk voices that pop up to get us to kind of not trust ourselves. And so I embarked on this, basically a journey. And I think of it as kind of a little decisions at a time that kind of build up your confidence. And I was really, really lucky. My dad and bonus mom, she used to be a partner at Arthur Andersen. My dad has owned his own business. So, frankly, for the first year or so after my divorce, even if it was kind of a small money decision, I would call them and say, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Here's how I'm thinking about it. Like, tell me where I've got this messed up. And then, after a while, more decisions I made. And lo and behold, the sky did not fall down. And it just built confidence. And so now it's, I've gotten to a place where it feels really good to be in control of my money. I think about financial stability really starts, I think, in our nervous system. And if we're coming from a spot where, we're just stressed about it all the time. And, most people don't necessarily lack information about making good financial decisions, but maybe they're coming out of a place where one, money wasn't talked about, or money was a very fraught topic. And so maybe they avoided it or didn't have that confidence. And so, Yeah, I had to calm my nervous system down first and build that confidence. And it's great to be in a happier, healthier place, both in my life and in my financial life, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's exactly what we do in the smell of money and I'm an aromatherapy practitioner, so we use the essential oils to help calm the nervous system to help us change that relationship with money. So we do have the confidence and then calm cash flow. With that confidence just comes in overflow and money comes in all ways, always. And it's such a beautiful relationship to have with money because when you're stressed about money and thinking or restricting yourself or being in that place where you're unsure how to invest, how to spend it, how to, like, is this a good move? And when, especially when someone had so much control over it and didn't sit down and say, hey, this is what we're doing. These are moving pieces, and unfortunately, that happens a lot. I retired from the Social Security Administration after a 30-year career and sat down with so many different widows, even widowers who I don't even know what a checkbook is. My spouse took care of everything and now they're gone. And I don't even know where all the bank accounts are. And it's that's why it's so important to have like an estate planning in place and actually offer a free guide where you can get the estate planning and just have everything written down someplace and store it. Like, even if you're afraid that somebody will see it beforehand, put it in a sealed envelope and you're like, don't open it until my
Mhm.
death. But this way, your family members don't have to go crazy trying to figure out where everything is. And there's all these little different moving pieces that we don't even think about when it comes to finances. And so I'm glad that you're on the other side. You talked about calming down your own nervous system. What tools did you use to help you do that?
Well, that's a great question. I was a pretty regular runner. And so a lot of times when I felt like just like overwhelmed by either indecision or the insecurity or just lack of self trust, getting the endorphins from running was super helpful. Like just working through the physicality of, okay, I've got to work this stress off. And then, at least for me, after a run, I just feel like my brain is clear. And you also kind of get I think, a jolt of, you feel powerful. Like, yeah, I
Mhm.
just did that. I ran up that hill, which I'm not very good at. I prefer running down hills. But yeah, it would just kind of clear the brain. Also, if I feel like I cannot run and think about things at the same time. Like, I'm not that coordinated, so I have to just focus on running. And I think that was part of it, like giving my brain a break from whatever it was stressed about or ruminating on, whether it was related to money or something else. It was like I had to give my brain a break because I had to focus on like not falling in. So
Mhm.
I think those things all kind of helped in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, that's a wonderful practice. I hate running myself, but I know a lot of people love to run, and it does. There's some kind of endorphins that are released, and it just your whole entire body's involved, and that it's amazing. I like to walk fast. I like to get on the treadmill with a little scene going. I can go to Tuscany or
Nice.
wherever we want to go to in the world, and simulate that, and that's okay. But as soon as you start picking up those knees and hitting, there's something about that running I don't like. But I love that that was able to help you. And, when we think about our daily practice of connecting with money, especially as a relationship, I mean, we do this with people. A lot of times our relationships are formed when we're little. So if you think about your earliest childhood memory of money, what was it like?
Oh, that's a really kind of intense question. I grew up with having a single mom, and money was super tight. And I still remember being a senior in high school. And one day she came home and she was like, she hadn't been able to make the mortgage payment in several months. So the house was in foreclosure. And, I was thinking about college, and she was like, I don't even know if we can afford for you to go to college. And so I was like, I was 17, didn't know, like, does that mean we're going to be living on the streets? Are we going to be in an apartment? Like, where are we going to live? And so that constant kind of tension, I think, in the home that I grew up in around the scarcity of money, I will say, and for good and for bad, it has led to me creating systems where I've got plenty in slush, which feels really good. And kind of, I think about money as a tool to protect your peace.
Yeah, I love that.
And that kind of came also in my divorce, but it's to kind of grow up with that scarcity. It still, it lingers. Our
Mhm.
childhoods linger, but I feel like it's led to me, putting money into retirement and kind of trying to max that out when I can, and be, I think there are always things we want to do differently than what our parents did. And my mom just kind of stayed in a state of instability, emotional instability. And so when I look back as an adult, especially once I had kids, I was like, okay, I want to do these things she did and I want to not do these things she did. And so some of that was just, not allowing myself to stay in that state of anxiety, I guess. And it's frankly one reason I became a business professor. I knew once you get tenure, it's hard to get rid of you. And especially if you work for a state university, the check's always clear. So I definitely gravitated towards a career that was more secure and that would pay me well, because I never want to go back to that feeling of like, can we make the rent or can we make the mortgage? And if we can't, where are we going to live?
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you being so vulnerable. And I know that it's actually happened to, quite a few people, and they're afraid to talk about it. It's embarrassing and there's a lot of shame and guilt around it. And it's like what you do, you get, especially single moms. I was a single mom for a long time. And sometimes at one point I was working 4 jobs, just trying to, what it felt like making ends meet. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong because I had been in finances and insurance since 1987. Like you said, you're like teaching the business aspect of it. It's like, I know I should know this. It shouldn't bother me.
Yes. The
I should
shame
be able
was real.
But we do. We have these
Yeah.
I like to call it the generational curse that we carry on from generation to generation. And, like our grandparents grew up in the Great Depression and, they had to live very frugally and, that stock market crashed and everybody lost everything. And then they had to rebuild and, the 50s were great and prosperous. And then I don't think I said that word right, but I'm going to go with it, guys. Okay.
Keep going.
Go at it here. And, the 60s, brought in a whole new era of, more women in the workplace, and then, 70s were kind of like a little crazy, but then 80s all of a sudden was conservative and, all the baby boomers are working and then the generation behind them, which is my generation, it's like, there's no jobs, like what's going on? And they basically forced us to go to college. It wasn't even a choice at that point. You had to go or you didn't get a job. And it was kind of frustrating too, but I ended up with a government job. So just like you, I worked for the federal, you worked for the state. And that's what I was, that stability, because I come from a family of entrepreneurs and there was always feast or famine. And I'm like, no, I want this steady income. I don't want to. And back when my mom was first married to my dad, they got divorced when I was young. She had a job with the Army and she loved that job. But then she got pregnant with my oldest brother. And my dad told her she couldn't work and stay home and take care of the baby. And she's like, well, why not? I know my mom could take care of the baby because her mom was retired at the time or whatever. And nope. And she loved that job. I think she always like missed it, but then she went into business for herself. She became a cosmetologist and opened up her own beauty salon. And, and she was always like, you want to get a job that pays a steady income, this entrepreneurial stuff, you're wondering when your next client, you got the seasonal work but it's all about planning for your money because it doesn't matter when it's coming in, you just have to plan for it so that it covers the longer periods. So how did you get into the relationship coaching aspect of what you're doing? Like, because you went from business and kind of like, is this your side gig or is this your like?
It's my side hustle / passion project. Several years back, I cannot tell you which podcast I was listening to, but I was driving I-15 in Salt Lake City. And something in the podcast made me realize like I stayed in my first marriage 10 to 12 years too long. And all the many decisions that go with that would have been different if I would have called it quits sooner. But in listening to this podcast and recognizing like, one, I have access to scholarly research that most people don't because one, paywalls, and two, people may read the abstract of a journal article and go, okay, well, maybe I understood part of that. Like there aren't currently easy ways to like translate, as I call it, pointy-headed academic research to like, okay, how does this apply to our lives? And, I started diving in and learning things that frankly, I think I probably avoided when I was kind of stuck 1 foot in, 1 foot out in my marriage. But bringing that research and helping people apply it to their relationships, that's where my passion is right now. I still have what I call my anchor job, and I still love teaching negotiation and doing research with my colleagues, but the bringing that relationship science and translating it and just making it easy for people to apply and especially to get that clarity. Because I think so many of us stay kind of in that indecision or you just feel stuck, and stuck is exhausting and it's counterproductive. And I talk about being stuck or indecision as being the enemy. Once we have clarity, then you can like make a plan. And, most of the time when we make a plan and execute it, the sky is not going to fall down. If things don't go well, as long as we learn something from it, then, it was beneficial. Maybe it didn't turn out exactly the way we wanted to, but, I think most people, and especially people who are single moms, they're careful, and so, generally things aren't going to go too awry, but helping others get kind of out of that unstuck spot that's my happy place.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's so beautiful. Realizing that, wow, I have this passion. I get to do this and it gets to be fun and it's so in alignment. Like it takes no effort. And
Mhm.
there are so many women listening right now. And I bet you there's some guys too that are in marriages stuck, afraid
Mm.
to get out because of financial reasons, because of the fear of the unknown. Where am I going to live? I can't afford. We've convinced ourselves that we can't afford to move out. We can't afford the rent. I haven't worked. I've been a stay-at-home mom. It would disrupt the kids, and would the kids be happy? There's just so many thoughts that come through our mind when we are contemplating that. What helped you decide that it was time to go?
Yes. Well, for the years that I stayed stuck and probably should have left, staying was because of my children. I grew up in a high demand religion where you just don't get divorced. And if you do, you're a bad mom. I wanted to be a good mom. My parents had a super bitter divorce and stayed bitter for decades. I just didn't want that. But I was standing in the kitchen of what I now call our stupidly big house at the time, and had interaction with my spouse at the time. And I was struck like by lightning. And I thought, oh my gosh, my children I have two sons, either learning that it's okay for a partner to treat them this way, or they're learning it's okay for them to treat a partner this way. And so it switched from like staying for the kids to, in large part, leaving because I didn't want them to learn anymore just really dysfunctional, harmful relationship dynamics. And if there's, and there, that's my biggest regret actually in the situation, is that I didn't leave sooner, because I think one of my children right now is replaying some of those dynamics, and it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, and I'm coming from a divorced family, I see that too, and, when we think about the ex situation, why we did leave, a lot of times, like, my ex was gaslighter, narcissist. I mean, it's the things I believed that he lied to me about, and even when I caught him red-handed, he seemed to, like, try to finagle his way out of it. It's just like, "Really? Do you
Yeah, yeah.
like,
Well, it
what?"
makes you distrust your own kind of sense of reality and what the world is. And so I think for a lot of people, especially women, in relationships like that. So then when you get out of it, you're building self trust, I think, a lot of times from the ground up. And that's with regard to money and so many other things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that. That is definitely a highlight for real. That is the key right there. That self-confidence, that self-trust. We when we're in a relationship that is not healthy, that is very dysfunctional, and it could be not even with just your partner, it could be a boss, it could be a
Hmm.
friend, it could be a
Totally.
sibling. And when you recognize that, your body knows first it's not right.
Hmm.
That's
Totally.
the
Yep.
signal you wanna go with. It's just like, "No, I am not, I'm not crazy." Like,
Hmm.
this is where you need somebody to help you work through it. If it wasn't for my mentors along the way, I would have been a hot mess.
Hmm.
I've been a hot mess.
Yeah.
You really need to process these things and get those thoughts and those feelings out and neutralized so that you can get to the next step, so that you can trust yourself, so that you can build a healthy relationship with yourself, with your finances, and with others. And, that's really the key. And I think so many of us, some are still in that position, but a lot of us have been through it and are on the other side. And it's just like, phew. And then being strong not to be in that position again. I have one client who's like, three different relationships. She's like, "Why am I attracting these people?" It's like, "Well, what do you
Mm-hmm.
self? How are you treating yourself, and what kind of respect, what kind of boundaries have you put into place to help you get to where you wanna go?" And once you started working on that, and that's all part of calming down that nervous system, getting those thoughts aligned with where you wanna go so that the actions that you take are congruent with your core values, your lifestyle. Wow, it's like a 360. Like I always say, mountains move when we get to that point because it's such a beautiful
Yeah.
transformation. Well, thank
Absolutely.
you so much
Yeah.
for sharing so much with us. I really appreciate your honesty and your heart. So, what is it? Tell us exactly what you do with the relationship coaching, and what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you and work with you.
Sure. One place they can, as a first stop, is they can go to mypartnerlab.co. So there they'll find access to various tools that are all grounded in relationship science to help them get clarity about the relationship, what's working, what's not working. Within the next week or so, we're going to launch an assessment that our users have asked for repeatedly, and that's a stay or go assessment that really gives people that, like, it's time to go or it's time to stay, or there's one kind of in the middle that's like stay, but under certain conditions. So every tool is designed with findings from relationship science, but also to help them get that clarity. So make decisions for themselves. They can also find me on LinkedIn, and happy to share that link with you or both links with you. And yeah, I love connecting with people that are trying to figure things out, because I knew my life would be better after my divorce. I didn't know it would be this great. And so helping people either get more clarity in their relationship, where can we make things better, or move on so they can, thrive being on their own, or find a new relationship. That's my apple pie. I love it.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much. For those of you listening, please check the show notes and connect with Meredith. If you are in that position of, should I stay or should I go? She is the lady that you want to talk to. She's been through it. She's made that decision, and it was a tough one. It's not easy peasy, all rainbows. No, it's going to be a challenge, but you are strong and you get to do it. And your choices are going to affect everything that you do, especially your finances. And don't let a money problem be the reason why you stay or stay stagnant. Because remember, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with it.
Hey mompreneurs, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, please follow the show and share it with a friend who's rebuilding her finances after divorce. No spreadsheets, no restrictive budgets, only confidence to build financial freedom. Also, please drop a quick 5-star review so more moms starting over can find this. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. Inhale confidence, exhale scarcity. I'll meet you back on Tuesday for another episode. It doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with it.